I didn't sleep much after that night. I told myself I wouldn't think about the package, that I'd throw it away in the morning and never look back. But the truth is, I couldn't stop staring at the clock. Every time my eyelids grew heavy, I'd jolt awake, convinced I heard something at the door. By the time sunlight crept through my curtains, I felt like I hadn't slept at all. I dragged myself out of bed, half expecting the box to be gone, as though I'd dreamed the whole thing. But it was still there, tucked under the frame, waiting for me like a secret I couldn't bury. I didn't tell anyone about it. Not at work, not even when my mother called that evening. What would I say? "Hey Mom, someone sent me a shirt I wore when I was a kid and a photo that shouldn't exist." She would have laughed nervously, told me it was strange, and then changed the subject. That's what we always did, skirt around the things that were uncomfortable, the things we couldn't explain. But 2 nights later, it happened again. It was the same sound, 3 soft knocks at the door, just past 3 a.m. This time, I didn't hesitate. I jumped out of bed and ran to the door as quickly as I could. And just like before, the hallway was empty. No footsteps, no voices, just the buzz of the light overhead. But at my feet was another box. My hands were shaking as I carried it inside. It was the same size, the same plain cardboard. My heart thudded in my chest as I peeled it open. Inside was a pair of shoes. Not just any shoes, my shoes. Small, scuffed sneakers, the kind with Velcro straps I wore before I learned to tie laces. The rubber was yellowed, the fabric worn thin. I hadn't seen them since my mother donated a bag of clothes years ago. I lifted them out of the box, my breath catching when something rattled inside. Stuffed into one of the shoes was another photograph. This one was darker, grainier. It showed me sitting at a kitchen table, coloring with crayons. A birthday cake was in front of me, 6 candles glowing faintly in the picture. My father's hands were resting on my shoulders. His wedding ring gleamed in the light. The details were so vivid that my chest ached. I could almost smell the frosting, hear the sound of my dad's voice singing "Happy Birthday." But then I noticed something else. In the corner of the photo, just beyond the edge of the kitchen door frame, was a figure. At first I thought it was a shadow, but the longer I stared, the more it looked like a person. A tall, thin silhouette, watching us from the hallway. My skin prickled as I flipped the picture over. Another message was scrawled in red ink. "You were never alone." I sat at the table, the shoes and the photos spread before me, my hands trembling. That was when the fear shifted. The first package had unsettled me. It felt like a cruel trick, a prank. But this was different. Whoever was sending these things knew me. They knew where I lived. They knew details about my childhood that no one else should. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe my mom had boxes of old belongings she'd forgotten about, and someone had found them. Maybe this was a stalker, someone who dug into my past, somehow retrieved my things. But the photos, those photos weren't in any album I'd ever seen. And the figure in the corner, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just some trick of the light. That night, I pushed the new box under the bed with the first one, then shoved a chair against the door before trying to sleep. It felt childish, but it gave me the smallest sense of security. Still, I woke every hour, staring at the red glow of the numbers on the clock. When 3 a.m. came, I held my breath, listening. Silence. I thought maybe, just maybe, it was over. But then, at 3:14 a.m., the sound came again. Not a knock this time, a dragging sound. Something heavy, sliding across the hallway floor just outside my door. My whole body went rigid. I sat up in bed, clutching the blanket like it could protect me, every muscle tight with dread. The sound stopped, followed by silence so deep I could hear the blood pounding in my ears. I didn't move. I didn't open the door. I just sat there, frozen, until the first light of morning crept into the room. And when I finally found the courage to check, there was nothing in the hallway. No box, no footprints, nothing. But as I closed the door again, I noticed something that made my stomach twist. The chain lock on the inside, the one I always fastened before bed, was unhooked. After that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that my apartment was no longer mine. Every creak of the walls, every hum of the pipes made me flinch. I started keeping the lights on, even when I tried to sleep, though sleep rarely came. The chain lock weighed on my mind. I replayed it over and over, how it had been fastened when I went to bed, how it wasn't when I woke up. I wanted to believe I'd forgotten, but deep down I knew I hadn't. The next evening, I did something I'd never thought I'd do. I went online and bought a small security camera. Nothing fancy, just one of those motion-activated ones people use to watch their pets. I set it up in the corner of my living room, angled toward the door. If anyone was coming inside, I wanted proof. That night, I sat awake until nearly 3, staring at the door, waiting. My heart pounded so loudly I swore it would give me away. At 3 a.m., I heard nothing. At 3:05, still nothing. By 3:10, my eyelids grew heavy, exhaustion dragging me down. And then, 3 soft knocks. I jolted upright, my pulse hammering. For a moment, I thought about opening the door, but instead I stayed still, silent, listening. After a long pause, I heard the faint scrape of cardboard against the floor. I waited until morning. When sunlight spilled through the curtains, I finally opened the door. Another box. Same size, same plain cardboard. I carried it inside, my stomach twisted in knots. Inside was a stuffed animal, a small, worn-out bear with button eyes. I knew this bear. It had been mine when I was a child, the one I slept with every night until I was too old to admit it. My mom had told me it was lost in a move, but here it was. Its fur matted, its fabric faded from years of love and handling. And tucked under its arm was another photograph. This one froze me completely. It was me again, maybe 8 years old this time, sitting on the front porch of our old house. But what made my throat close was the angle. The picture wasn't taken by my family, it was from the street, like someone had been watching us. Behind me, through the porch window, a shadowy figure loomed. On the back of the photo, "You let me in." My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped it. I checked the camera footage immediately, fumbling with my phone, desperate for answers. And there it was, recorded at 3:06 a.m. The footage showed my door, empty hallway, then suddenly the frame glitched. Just for a second, static lines flickered across the screen, and when the image cleared, the box was sitting there. No person, no sound, just there. I rewound it again and again, each time the same thing. The box appeared out of nowhere. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I felt trapped in my own home, but I couldn't bring myself to leave. Who would I tell? The police? What would I even say? That ghosts were mailing me my childhood belongings? That someone could walk into my apartment without leaving a trace? That night, I called my mother. I tried to sound casual, but my voice shook as I asked about the old house, about the things I'd lost over the years. There was a long silence on the other end. Finally, she said, "I don't know how to explain this, But when we moved, some of your things went missing. Not just misplaced, gone. I assumed they were stolen. Your father never wanted to talk about it.
The note lay on the floor, its words burning into my eyes. I am already inside. My breath hitched. My first instinct was denial. It had to be a joke, a trick of some kind. But the longer I stood in that doorway, staring into the dim hallway, the more certain I became that I wasn't alone anymore. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and pressed my back against it, heart hammering in my chest. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to leave everything behind, but my legs wouldn't move. My apartment felt like a trap. Every corner, every shadow seemed too deep, too dark. I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, an old umbrella from the stand by the door, and crept through the apartment, flicking on every light I passed. The bedroom, the bathroom, the kitchen. Empty. But it didn't feel empty. It felt observed. Like someone was standing just out of sight, waiting. I thought about the camera, the one still recording in the living room. Maybe it had caught something. Maybe it could tell me what my eyes couldn't see. With shaking hands, I pulled up the live feed on my phone and froze. The camera showed me standing in the living room clutching the umbrella, but behind me, in the corner near the hallway door, was a figure. Tall, thin, motionless. I spun around, umbrella raised. Nothing. The corner was empty. My stomach churned as I looked back at the feed. The figure was still there. Closer now. Closer to me. The lights flickered. The air grew heavy, pressing down on my chest. My phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the floor, the image cutting off. And then I heard it. A whisper, so faint I thought I imagined it. Do you remember me? The sound came from everywhere and nowhere, wrapping around me like cold fingers. I staggered backward, knocking into the table where the photographs lay. They spilled to the floor, faces staring up at me from another lifetime. And then I saw it. One last photograph I hadn't noticed before. It was me, sitting on my bed in this very apartment, not as a child, not years ago. Me. Last night. The angle was from inside my room. I felt the blood drain from my face. My knees buckled as I realized the truth. This wasn't someone sending me my past. This wasn't a prank. Whoever or whatever it was had been with me all along. The lights went out. Pitch black swallowed me whole. I fumbled blindly, gasping for air, until a hand, not mine, not possible, brushed against my arm. I screamed, swinging the umbrella wildly. It hit nothing. The whisper came again, louder now, echoing in my skull.